In my last video, I played Need for Speed Most Wanted for the first time. It's a video I'm happy I made, and I'm glad so many of you enjoyed it. Please go check it out sometime if you haven't watched it already. But I only brought this up because in it, I made an admission. I admitted that I had never played Need for Speed Underground, Need for Speed Underground 2, nothing from this era outside of Most Wanted in that video. So many of you guys reached out to me and gave me your suggestions on where to go from there. I appreciate everyone who reached out and told me where to go, but there didn't seem to be a general consensus. I heard Need for Speed Carbon, it's the sequel to Most Wanted and it fixes some of the issues you have with Most Wanted. Makes sense. I also had people saying that I should play Underground 2 next, since it has more car customization than Most Wanted, and that's something that you were really looking forward to diving into Most Wanted. But if you play Underground 2 first, then you won't appreciate how it improved from Underground 1, so you gotta play that one first. So, while we may not agree on where to go next, I've heard you all loud and clear, you want more Need for Speed, and you know what? I'm a man of the people, I'm gonna give you more Need for Speed. So, I've decided to play almost every Need for Speed in order, starting at Hot Pursuit 2 on the PlayStation 2. Get subscribed so you don't miss any upcoming Need for Speed content. But why Hot Pursuit 2? Well, truthfully, I wanted to get into Underground and the more modern games quicker, but people have told me that Hot Pursuit 2 kind of has a unique quirk. The quirk being that these are two different games masquerading as one. Yeah, so to my surprise, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 on GameCube, Xbox, and PC were developed by EA Seattle. EA Seattle had put out a few games prior to this, mostly PC versions of the PlayStation 1 games, Need for Speed 2 and Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit, as well as 2 fishing games and Motor City Online. The PS2 version, however, was developed by Black Box Games. If you're a fan of this series, you already know what I'm about to say, but Black Box Games later became EA Black Box and became the primary Need for Speed developer from this point until Need for Speed The Run in 2011. I mean, shit, what a run. EA Seattle, however, closed shortly after Hot Pursuit 2's launch, and a few of their staff was transferred to EA Vancouver, and the rest were laid off. Based on this, I think you can imagine which version is better between the two, but today I want to take a proper look at both, comparing and contrasting what makes them tick and what makes one version clearly better than the others. So without further delay, let's dive right into it. My name is Mercy, and I played Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 for the first time. Enjoy. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 was released on October 1st, 2002 for Xbox, PS2, and GameCube, and later released on October 21st, 2002 for PC. Today we'll be taking a look at the PS2 and PC versions of the game. I'm going to be primarily focused on the PS2 for simplicity's sake, and then interject with PC footage when I need to. I'm also just going to be calling it Seattle from now on, since everything I'm saying applies to both the GameCube and the Xbox versions as well. Both games have the same intro cinematic, and I gotta say, it's badass. It kicks off with a Lamborghini Murcielago racing the Ferrari 360 Spider while they're being chased by a helicopter. Suddenly, the police show up in their Crown Vics and the Ferrari dips off onto a dirt road. The Lambo then slides past a police roadblock and forces the Crown Vics to stop, with the Ferrari rejoining the race shortly after. They jump down a steep hill and they're bobbing around traffic. They slide around another corner when suddenly a Lamborghini Diablo police car joins the chase. Shortly after this, they all take a huge jump and the cinematic pauses. The camera spins around the yellow Lambo, and then the Need for Speed logo flashes on the screen before fading into the title card. What an absolutely incredible opening cinematic. Not only was it badass, but it told me just about everything this game has to offer in a short format. Just like that, I know that this is a game with high-end, fast, exotic sports cars racing across the countryside with the police close behind me. I know there's shortcuts and big jumps with plenty of spots to drift. This is important because Hot Pursuit 2 doesn't have a story, at least not in the conventional sense. There are 2 campaign modes, one called Ultimate Racer, or Hot Pursuit if you're playing the Seattle version, and the other called Championship. Regardless of which one you choose, you're thrust right into the first event. You're not the new guy in town, nobody stole your car, there's no narrative whatsoever. You pick some cool cars from a list and you get rolling. I can get behind that. So let's talk about those cars. Both games have a crazy cool roster of cars, mostly made up of high-end European cars like the Porsche 911, the Ferrari F50, and McLaren F1 to name a few. But there are also a few American cars like the Dodge Viper and the Chevy C5 Corvette, and even a few Australian cars like the Ford TS50 and Holden Coupe GTS, which was neat to see. I generally don't see many Australian cars in games, but the bigger shocker to me was that there isn't a single Japanese car in this game. which is kind of weird, and I guess I think that's weird because I've always had this view that Need for Speed was primarily a tuner game with JDM cars, street racing, pink slips, all that sort of thing. I know now that's not true at all, but I guess it just shows you how popular and influential Underground was to an outsider like me. Since this game is called Hot Pursuit, there are, of course, plenty of police variants of existing cars in the game. The BMW M5, Chevy Corvette, Ford Crown Vic, and Ford Mustang, and even a Lamborghini Murcielago. Badass. But weirdly enough, the Seattle version has a few more pursuit cars. There's a Dodge Viper, a Porsche 911, and even a Lamborghini Diablo VT, among others. Sadly though, this is just about the only advantage the Seattle version has over PS2. I'll get more into that in just a minute. Another shocker I had while playing this was just how different the handling is to the other games in the series I've played, especially on the PS2. See, on PS2 there are two distinct handling modes, Classic and Extreme. There's no tuning or anything like that, you can only really customize the color of each car, but you can choose one of these two handling modes. What it boils down to is this. In simple terms, Classic, the car wants to understeer, Extreme, the car wants to oversteer. I think this is gonna come down to personal preference, but for me, I really don't like when cars understeer, especially not rear-wheel drive cars like the ones in Hot Pursuit 2. I played about 2 or 3 races with Classic before realizing how much I absolutely hated it, and so I tried out Extreme. Wow, what a game changer. I was sliding my car sideways through just about every corner, and truthfully this game feels like it was built with that extreme handling in mind. It felt so damn good to pull off some of these drifts and adjust to the weight transfer of shifting left to right and right to left, using up the track to maintain your line before the tires regain grip and you're able to hammer down the gas again. I'm just excited talking about it. This might be my favorite handling Need for Speed that I've played so far. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. This really is fantastic. I loved blasting through these tracks, sliding through almost every corner, shifting back and forth, swinging wide around long carousel corners. It's sick. When I think of drifting, I don't think of Lambos and Jaguars and Ferraris, but damn it, this might have changed my mind. It's so much fun. Adding to that, there are huge jumps where the camera looks up at your car as you fly over it. There were even times where I tried to slow down so I could get the other cars in frame during the slow-mo jump. It's awesome. All of this is backdropped by a pretty cool soundtrack consisting of 8 different songs, primarily early 2000s rock music. Big artists like Bush, Rush, and Uncle Kracker each have a song, and smaller artists like Buzzhorn, Pulse Ultra, and Course of Nature all have one track each. The band Hot Action Cop, who was featured in the intro cinematic, is the only artist here with 2 songs. By the way, it's badass to see Rush in a game that's not called Guitar Hero. I love them. I'm a big fan. I do wish the soundtrack was a bit longer, but I didn't really get tired of hearing most of the music. Uncle Kracker gets on my nerves sometimes. I mean, how does he not? But you can always turn the songs off in the settings if there are some you don't like. I've already added half of the soundtrack to my playlist, and who knows, the rest may end up on there eventually. I'll go ahead and link the soundtrack down below in the description if you'd like to take a listen for yourself. Getting back to the handling, let's talk about how the Seattle version is different. Unfortunately, the Seattle version doesn't have classic and extreme handling, and instead only has one handling mode. And it's kind of weird. I don't know what it is or if my game is broken, but it just seems like the cars sit too high. Do you guys see that, or is it just me? Also, the tires look huge and comical. I hate how the cars look when they take a jump too. It's almost like there's a delay from when you actually hit the incline and when the game registers you doing it. The body is just strangely stable too. I hardly notice any body roll at all in the Seattle version. It's more or less just the tires moving up and down and around. It almost feels like you're floating just above the track as opposed to riding on top of it. It's really weird and I don't like it. While we're on the topic of differences, let's talk about one of the biggest differences between the two games, the tracks. On PS2 we have 5 total locations, each with 3 courses, bringing the total track count to 15. In the Seattle version we have 4 total locations, 3 courses each, bringing the total to 12. Mediterranean is a Greek coastal map that sends you through a few towns, a marina, and even some ancient ruins. Parkland takes you to the Pacific Northwest, driving along the coast and through a dense forest. Alpine is set somewhere in America, not sure exactly where, but it's very mountainous. Tropics takes place somewhere in Polynesia, maybe Hawaii, I'm not 100% sure on that, but there's palm trees, waterfalls, and there's even a volcano that erupts. The 5th and final location is just called Desert, and this map has lots and lots of dusty dirt road shortcuts for you to take. Desert is completely exclusive to the PS2 version of the game, and I gotta say, it's a banger track. Lots of shortcuts, many of them not even immediately noticeable to you, and they are kinda tricky to hit. There's also a dust storm that completely blocks your vision, so if you don't know this bend is coming up on the right, or if this shortcut is in front of you, you're gonna slow down. Once you get the hang of it though, you feel like a total badass sending it through it. It makes the world seem more real, and in my head raises the stakes of the racing. Nothing like this happens in the Seattle version, and it makes the game feel very stale and vanilla in comparison. Playing them side by side here, the Seattle version just looks so bland and flat in comparison. Like, yeah, it's sharper, it has a higher resolution, it's cleaner, and it runs better than the PS2 version. But even without upscaling the PS2, which I never do for my videos or my playthroughs, I still think it looks better. Art direction can carry a game, and to me there's no better proof of that than these two. I was trying to think of a spot in particular where I could show this off, and I kept coming back to this part on Calypso Coast on Mediterranean, where you can take this shortcut on the left and cut through the harbor. Just look at the difference here. The PS2 has all of these boats on the left in the harbor. There's lots of buildings alongside the road. It has character. The PC, on the other hand, nothing. It's just a stone path. There isn't a single boat in the harbor whatsoever. There's a few out in the water, but I just don't get it. Is this place abandoned? Did a million people used to live here and now it's a ghost town? What gives? I know it may seem that I'm being extra hard on the Seattle version, but it's 100% genuine. It's really how I feel. It was not a game I particularly enjoyed all that much, and I kept seeing things that made me just want to go back to PS2, so I will. Let's talk about the career modes. I only mentioned them in passing, but Ultimate Racer and Championship are the two major categories in Hot Pursuit 2. Championship consists of 30 main events with a few additional bonus events, and primarily focuses just on the racing itself. There are lap races against 7 other cars, duels where it's just 1v1s, point-to-point races where the start and finish are in different spots, and plenty of elimination races. These can be by the lap or by the race itself, meaning whoever finishes in last is eliminated. My single biggest issue with Hot Pursuit 2 is just how repetitive these events can get after a while. Some of these elimination events are 4 to 5 races long and only eliminate 1 car each time. You can always change your car within the specifics of that event, but it just isn't enough for me. I want more variety more often. Granted, I can always back out of an event and start a different one if I want and kind of mix and match, so there's that, but it's not like the tracks aren't fun to drive on or anything. None of them really stand out as quote-unquote bad per se, but I can only see the same track so many times before I start to lose interest. And that's sort of how I felt playing this. It started off really strong, like wow, it's a brand new game, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I love going back and finding old video games that I didn't play growing up, but I really vibe with now. But as I kept replaying similar events over and over again, it started to become a bit of a grind. Initially for this video, I was going to play all 30 events plus the bonus events because hell yeah, why wouldn't I? But doing the same things over and over again against the same opponents with the same cars just got kind of old by the end of it. It came to a point where I was trying to skip as many tournament elimination events as I could so I could get to event 30 quicker and move on. And that's exactly what I did before I moved on to Ultimate Racer. Ultimate Racer is very similar to Championship, except this time around the cops are involved. And boy, are they ever involved. They make this game way more interesting, especially at high heat levels. Not only are they aggressive as hell, they set up roadblocks and after a while even send a helicopter after you to shoot missiles and drop explosive barrels in front of you that you need to dodge. It's not like you hit one of these and you wreck out or anything. They're just there as an obstacle to dodge as it forces your car to slow down for a short period before you can get it back up to speed again if you do hit it. And regardless of how hard you hit a roadblock, it will still slow you down. Kind of a bummer if I just sideswipe a car, but it's something you get used to pretty quickly. Dodging roadblocks is pretty much something you're gonna need to do. And the cops use some pretty damn fast cars too. Like I said earlier, the game starts off with Crown Vics, but eventually they're driving these super fast exotic cars just like you are. Sometimes they even take themselves out trying to take you out, and they're relentless, at least on PS2. On the PS2 version, the cops can bust you a total of 3 times before your race is over. Busting you basically just resets your wanted level and resets you onto the course. It's not an instant game over like it is on the Seattle version. Now, I feel like I'm starting to feel like a broken record, but once again, these games both have different ways of handling heat levels. I know, surprising. On PS2, once you start building your heat up, you can't reset it unless you're busted, as far as I know. So once you have 4 stars, you're going to experience cops non-stop in their pursuit to stop you. The Seattle version works a bit different, as you can lower your heat level by outrunning the cops. They'll just give up until you pass by another one on the side of the road. I think they both have their pros and cons, but again, broken record. I like how the PS2 handles this better. It allows for some batshit crazy moments, and it spices the game up with big wrecks and unpredictability, whereas the Seattle version maybe feels more fair, but at the same time it's less exciting. Races tended to be much closer for me on the PS2 than on the Seattle version because I was constantly being harassed by the cops. It made the game feel more unpredictable and as a result way more fun. The last thing I want to talk about is the mode You're a Cop, which is exactly what it sounds like. You're a cop now chasing down the racers. On PS2 there are 3 cars you need to bust in under a certain time limit. Chase them down, pit maneuver them, or slam them against the wall and pin them so they can't move. But these guys are quick. And remember, you have to take down 3 different drivers, so you can't focus on one of them for too long. Thankfully, the game gives you some tools to stop them, like the helicopter, and you can call for backup, and you can even place roadblocks. And these actually work. It's really a great time. I loved this mode a lot, and it added a variety to the game that it desperately needed at this point. The Seattle version is, of course, a bit different, but the concept is the same. You're still a cop, you can still call in for backup and such, but this time there isn't a set amount of racers. You just keep busting them until the time runs out, you're going for the high score. The thing is, with this version, it never feels like the cars you're busting are even racing with each other. There's only one visible on the track at a time, and to bust them, you don't even have to stop them. They each have health bars, and you just gotta ram into them a few times for their health to go to 0, and then bam, busted. There's a severe lack of urgency in this one. The time limit really makes you think and get creative with how you're going to take down your opponents on PS2. With this, it feels more laid back and less urgent, and as a result, to me, it's less fun. It's just another knock against the Seattle version in a long list of knocks. But unfortunately, I have to knock each game for how they handle this mode. In both the PS2 and the Seattle version, there are only 4 different times when you get to play as the cop. Yes, count it, 4. If we exclude the bonus events, out of the 30 total events, only 4 of them are You're a Cop. That's a measly 13% of the total Ultimate Racer campaign. Now, I can always go be a cop in the You're a Cop option on the title screen, but that's besides the point. It's kind of odd to me that there's all of these cool cop cars and we're only using them 4 times in the campaign. And it's not even like these events are long either, a few minutes long each, and you're back to racing again in events that might take you 10 minutes or longer. I guess I had the wrong idea going into this. I thought it'd be more like Criterion's 2010 Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, where you have a dedicated racer and a dedicated cop campaign. But the more that I think about it, the more likely it is that they looked back at how this game was structured and made that change for their game. Super stoked to check that one out, by the way. Get subscribed so you don't miss it. Either way, that just about sums up everything I have to say about Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. I went into this game pretty much blind. I didn't look into it much outside of the game being 2 similar, yet different games with 2 different developers. The PlayStation 2 version I cannot recommend enough. It's a very high quality title that has absolutely held up to the test of time. But for me, it's kind of the game you play in between something with more substance. If I had this as a kid, oh yeah, I would have 100%ed this easy. I didn't get many new games back then, but for me now, times are different, and in my current 31-year-old body, I need a little more to hold my attention. It's sort of like junk food. It tastes really good, but you probably shouldn't be eating the whole bag in one sitting. The Seattle version, however, I cannot recommend unless you're either interested in the 2 dev team story, or if you want to compare the differences between the 2 versions like I have here. On its own, it's just a very middling and mediocre title that I probably won't be revisiting. But enough about me, it's time to turn it over to you. If you've played Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, which version is your favorite? Did I get anything wrong? Miss anything? I would love to hear your responses. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more Need for Speed First Opinions. My name is Mercy, and as always, have a good one.